The phone call that changed everything came at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Sarah? Sarah, honey, wake up. My mom's voice was thick with tears. Grandpa Joe, he's gone. I sat up in my dorm bed, my heart immediately racing. What? When? How? About an hour ago. Peaceful, in his sleep. The nursing home called your father first, then us. We're heading to the hospital now to handle things. I was already throwing clothes into a bag. I'm driving home. I'll be there in 3 hours. No, sweetie, wait until morning. It's not safe to drive. Mom, I'm coming home. Now. The drive from my college to our small town in Ohio was a blur of tears and memories. Grandpa Joe had been my everything growing up. While my dad worked 60-hour weeks at the factory and my mom juggled 2 part-time jobs, Grandpa Joe was the one who picked me up from school, helped with homework, taught me to fish, and listened to all my teenage drama without judgment. When I arrived at my parents' house, I found my dad sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had clearly gone cold hours ago. His eyes were red-rimmed, and he looked older than I'd ever seen him. Dad? I said softly. He looked up and managed a weak smile. Hey, kiddo. I'm glad you're here. I hugged him tight, both of us crying. I'm so sorry, Dad. I know how much he meant to you. He was my hero, Dad whispered into my hair. Even when he was disappointed in me, even when I screwed up, he never gave up on me. We spent the morning making funeral arrangements and calling relatives. It wasn't until later that afternoon that the lawyer, Mr. Peterson, called and asked if the family could come in for the reading of the will. Reading of the will? I asked Dad as he hung up the phone. Grandpa Joe didn't have much, did he? Dad shrugged. The house, some savings. Probably wants to make sure everything's handled properly. The lawyer's office smelled like old books and furniture polish. Mr. Peterson was a thin man in his 60s who'd known our family for decades. He gestured for us to sit, me, my parents, my dad's younger brother Uncle Mike, and my cousin Jenny. I'm sorry for your loss, Mr. Peterson began, adjusting his glasses. Joe was a good man. He came to see me about 6 months ago to update his will, and he was very specific about his wishes. He opened a manila folder and cleared his throat. I'll read the relevant portions. I, Joseph Michael Crawford, being of sound mind and body, do hereby bequeath my entire estate, including my house at 412 Maple Street, my savings accounts, investment portfolio, and all personal property, to my granddaughter, Sarah Elizabeth Crawford. The room went completely silent. I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. I'm sorry, what? Mr. Peterson continued reading. To my son Michael and my son David, I leave my love and my hope that they will understand this decision. To Sarah, I leave everything because I trust her to use it wisely and to help our family when they need it. I stared at the lawyer, then at my family. My dad's face had gone completely white. There must be some mistake, Uncle Mike said, his voice tight. Dad always said the house would go to his sons. There's no mistake, Mr. Peterson said gently. Mr. Crawford was very clear. The estate is valued at approximately $850,000. My mom gasped. $850,000? The house is worth about $200,000, but Joe was quite good with his investments over the years. He'd been quietly building wealth for decades. I couldn't process what I was hearing. Grandpa Joe, who clipped coupons and drove a 20-year-old truck, had been secretly wealthy? This is insane, Dad said, standing up abruptly. Sarah, you can't accept this. Dad, No. His voice was harsh in a way I'd never heard before. This money should go to his children. We're the ones who took care of him. We're the ones who visited him every week at the nursing home. We're the ones who, his voice broke. David, Mom said quietly, reaching for his hand. He pulled away. Don't. Just don't. He looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw something cold in his eyes. Sarah, you need to refuse this inheritance. Sign it over to me and Mike. It's the right thing to do. My heart was pounding. I don't know. I need to think about this. What's to think about? Uncle Mike snapped. You're 19 years old. What do you need with that kind of money? Your dad's been struggling to pay for your college, working himself to death, and now you're going to take the money that should be his. I didn't ask for this. I said, tears starting to flow. I had no idea. But you're going to take it anyway, aren't you? Dad's voice was quiet now, which somehow made it worse. You're going to take the money that was supposed to secure our future. Dad, please. I thought I raised you better than this, Sarah. I thought I raised you to do the right thing. I felt like I'd been slapped. The right thing according to who? Grandpa Joe made this decision. Maybe there was a reason. The reason, Uncle Mike said bitterly, is that he lost his mind in that nursing home. $850,000, Sarah. That's my dad's life insurance policy that he never cashed. That's the house he promised would stay in the family. That's your dad's retirement fund. And your college fund for your kids, Dad added, looking at me with those cold eyes. But I guess you don't care about your little cousin's futures either. The meeting ended with my family barely speaking to me. I drove back to my dorm that night in a daze, my phone buzzing constantly with texts from relatives who'd already heard the news. Word travels fast in small towns. From Aunt Lisa, "I can't believe you're being so selfish. Your dad sacrificed everything for this family." From Cousin Jake, "Wow. Didn't know you were so greedy. Grandpa Joe must be rolling in his grave." From my own mother, "Please think about what you're doing. This is tearing our family apart." But the worst was from my dad, "I don't know who you are anymore." That was 3 months ago. In that time, I've learned things about my grandfather and my family that I never knew. The first surprise came when I went to clean out Grandpa Joe's house. In his desk drawer, I found a letter addressed to me, dated just 2 weeks before he died. "Dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, then old Mr. Peterson has done his job and told you about the inheritance. I imagine your father and uncle are pretty upset right now, and I'm sorry for that. But I need you to understand why I made this decision. Your father is a good man, but he's never been good with money. When he was younger, I bailed him out of debt 3 times. Credit cards, bad investments, gambling. Your mother doesn't know about the gambling, and I hope she never has to. The last time was 5 years ago, $30,000 to keep him from losing your house. Your Uncle Mike is worse. He's borrowed money from me 7 times in the past decade and never paid back a cent. He thinks I don't know about the drug problem, but I do. And I know about the dealing, too. I'm not telling you this to hurt them, sweetheart. I'm telling you because I need you to understand that I didn't choose you because I love you more. I chose you because I trust you. You're smart with money. You're responsible. And most importantly, you have a good heart. I know they'll pressure you to give them the money. Maybe they'll make you feel guilty. But I'm asking you, begging you, to keep it. Use it for your education. Use it to build a good life. And yes, if your family truly needs help with real emergencies, help them. But don't just hand it over. There's something else you need to know. In the basement, behind the old coal furnace, there's a loose brick. Pull it out. What you find there will explain a lot. I love you, Sarah. I'm proud of the woman you're becoming. Don't let them make you feel guilty for my decision. All my love, Grandpa Joe." My hands were shaking as I finished reading. I sat in his old recliner for a long time, just trying to process everything. My dad had gambling problems? Uncle Mike was dealing drugs? How had I never known any of this? That evening, I went down to the basement with a flashlight. Behind the old furnace, just like Grandpa Joe had said, one of the bricks was loose. I pulled it out and found a metal box. Inside were documents. Bank statements showing loans to my dad and uncle. Photographs of Uncle Mike with people I didn't recognize, standing next to expensive cars. And most shocking of all, a police report from 2019, Uncle Mike had been arrested for possession with intent to distribute, but the charges had been mysteriously dropped. At the bottom of the box was another letter, this one much older. The handwriting was shaky, like it had been written by someone whose hands weren't steady. "Sarah, if you found this box, it means you read my first letter and you're trying to understand. I hope these documents help you see why I couldn't leave my life's work to my sons. I love David and Michael, but they've made choices that I can't support. David's gambling cost him his marriage to your grandmother. She almost left him over it back in 1987. He promised me he'd stopped, but I know he hasn't. Last year, he borrowed money from loan sharks. I had to pay them off to keep him safe. Michael has been selling drugs for years. I tried to get him help, but he won't admit he has a problem. The money I'd leave him would just fund more of his business, hurt more people. I've spent my entire life building this wealth, not for me, but for my family's future. I want it to go to someone who will honor that legacy. Please don't hate your father and uncle. They're good men who've made bad choices. But please don't enable those choices either. Love, Grandpa." I spent that whole night in Grandpa Joe's house, reading through everything. Bank statements showing thousands of dollars in transfers to my dad over the years. Police reports about Uncle Mike that had been buried or dismissed. Photos of family gatherings where everyone was smiling, but now I could see the tension in my dad's eyes, the way Uncle Mike was always looking at his phone. How had I missed all of this? The next morning, I called my dad. "Dad, we need to talk. If this is about the inheritance, Sarah, I meant what I said. If you keep that money?" "Dad, I found Grandpa's letters." Silence. "I know about the gambling. I know about the loans. I know about Uncle Mike." "Sarah, did you really think I wouldn't find out? Did you think I'd just hand over almost $1 million without understanding why Grandpa Joe made this decision?" It's not that simple. Then explain it to me. He sighed, and when he spoke again, his voice was small. I never meant for it to get so bad. It started with just small bets. Football games. Poker with friends. But then I started losing, and I thought I could win it back, and $30,000, Dad. You borrowed $30,000 from loan sharks. How did you, the nursing home? He told you when he was dying, didn't he? Trying to turn you against me. He saved your life. Do you understand that? He paid off dangerous people to protect you, and this is how you talk about him. I would have figured it out. How, Dad? You were 3 days away from having your legs broken. That's what the letter from the loan shark said. Final warning. Grandpa Joe showed me everything. There was a long pause. I can't believe he kept all of that. He kept it because he loved you. Because he wanted to protect you. But he also couldn't trust you with his life savings. So he gave it to you instead. His precious granddaughter who never made a mistake in her life. That's not fair. Isn't it? You've never struggled, Sarah. You've never had to choose between paying the rent and buying groceries. You've never been so desperate that you made stupid decisions just hoping something would work out. You're right, I said quietly. I haven't struggled like that. But maybe that's because Grandpa Joe and you and Mom protected me from it. And maybe that's exactly why Grandpa Joe thought I could handle this responsibility. Responsibility? Dad laughed bitterly. Is that what you're calling it? Yes. Because that's what it is. This isn't just money, Dad. It's Grandpa Joe's legacy. He worked for 60 years to build this. He saved every penny, made smart investments, lived below his means, all so his family would be secure. And he trusted me to carry that forward. So what, you're just going to keep it all? I'm going to use it the way he wanted. I'm going to finish college debt-free. I'm going to invest it and grow it. And if you or Uncle Mike or anyone in this family has a real emergency, medical bills, house repairs, genuine need, I'll help. But I'm not going to hand over hundreds of thousands of dollars to fund gambling addictions or drug deals. I can't believe you just said that. Which part? The part about helping with real emergencies, or the part about not enabling destructive behavior? You sound just like him. Judgmental. Self-righteous. I sound like someone who loves you enough to not watch you destroy yourself. Don't. Dad's voice was sharp. Don't you dare try to make this about helping me. This is about you being greedy and selfish. If that's what you really think, then maybe Grandpa Joe made the right choice. He hung up on me. That conversation was 2 months ago. Since then, the situation has only gotten worse. Uncle Mike showed up at my dorm last month, demanding I sign the inheritance over to him and Dad. When I refused, he told me that Grandpa Joe had promised him money for his business venture and that I was destroying his dreams. I later found out from his ex-girlfriend that the business venture was buying a larger quantity of drugs to sell. My dad stopped speaking to me entirely. He won't take my calls, won't respond to texts. When I came home for Thanksgiving, he left the house rather than sit at the same table as me. My mom is caught in the middle. She keeps begging me to just give them something to keep the peace. It's just money, Sarah, she says. Family is more important. But here's what I think she doesn't understand, this isn't about money. It's about respect. It's about honoring my grandfather's wishes. It's about not enabling destructive behavior that's already torn our family apart. Last week, I found out that Dad took out a second mortgage on their house. Mom doesn't know. He's been gambling online, convinced he can win big and solve all their problems. He's already lost $15,000 of their savings. Uncle Mike was arrested again 2 weeks ago. Drug possession, this time with intent to distribute. He's looking at serious jail time. His first call from jail was to me, demanding I bail him out and pay for a lawyer because family helps family. I said no. My cousin Jenny, Uncle Mike's daughter, sent me a text yesterday, I hope you're happy. My dad's going to prison because you won't help him. You have all that money and you're just sitting on it while our family falls apart. Grandpa Joe would be ashamed of you. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night, I found more documents in Grandpa Joe's house. Financial records going back decades. My grandfather had been quietly helping our family for years. He paid for my dad's community college. He covered the down payment on my parents' house. He paid for Uncle Mike's rehab, twice. He covered medical bills, car repairs, and countless other expenses. He'd been supporting everyone for 40 years, and where did it get him? My dad still gambled. Uncle Mike still used drugs. No one learned to be responsible with money because Grandpa Joe was always there to catch them when they fell. I think that's why he chose me. Not because he loved me more, but because he knew that giving the money to Dad or Uncle Mike would just enable more of the same destructive patterns. He'd spent 4 decades trying to help them by giving them money, and it never worked. But my family doesn't see it that way. The worst part happened last week. I was at the grocery store in town when I ran into Mrs. Henderson, who's been friends with our family forever. "Sarah, honey," she said, but her voice was cold. "I heard about your grandfather's will." "Yes, ma'am. I have to say, I'm disappointed. Your poor father worked so hard taking care of Joe all these years, and this is how he's repaid? It's just not right." "Mrs. Henderson, there's a lot you don't know about the situation. I know enough. I know your father is a good man who deserves better. And I know your grandfather must have been confused in his final months to make such a cruel decision." "He wasn't confused. He was trying to protect our family." "Protect them from what? From financial security? From finally being able to retire and enjoy their golden years?" I wanted to tell her everything. About the gambling, about the drugs, about the decades of bailouts. But these were my family's secrets, and despite everything, I couldn't bring myself to air them publicly. "I understand why you might see it that way," I said instead. "I hope you can live with yourself," she said, and walked away. Similar conversations have happened with family friends, neighbors, even my old high school teachers. In a small town, everyone knows everyone's business, and the story that's spreading is that I'm a greedy granddaughter who stole my family's rightful inheritance. The irony is that I haven't even touched most of the money. I paid off my student loans and put the rest in investments, just like Grandpa Joe would have wanted. I'm still working my part-time job at the campus bookstore. I'm still eating ramen and shopping at thrift stores. But I also sleep better at night knowing that I'm not inadvertently funding my dad's gambling or my uncle's drug operation. Yesterday, I got a call from Mom. "Sarah, honey, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." "Okay. Did your grandfather leave you instructions about the money? Like, specific things he wanted you to do with it?" I hesitated. "Why do you ask?" "Because your father?" "Sarah, I found betting websites on his computer. And there are some charges on our credit card that I don't recognize. I think he might be gambling again." My heart sank. "Oh, Mom." I confronted him about it, and he said it was just small bets. He said he was trying to win enough money to pay off some debts. "But Sarah, I'm scared. The amounts I'm seeing, they're not small." "How much?" "I think he's lost about $20,000 in the past 2 months. We might lose the house." I closed my eyes. This was exactly what Grandpa Joe had been afraid of. "Mom, I can help with the house payments if you need me to. But I can't just give Dad access to large amounts of money. Not while he's actively gambling." "I know," she whispered. I think I understand why your grandfather did what he did." "Are you angry with me?" "No, honey. I'm angry with the situation. I'm angry that your father can't seem to help himself. I'm angry that your uncle has thrown his life away on drugs. I'm angry that your grandfather felt like he couldn't trust his own sons with his legacy. But I'm not angry with you. It was the first time in months that someone in my family had said they understood." "What should I do, Mom?" "I don't know, baby. I really don't know. That conversation was yesterday. Today, I'm sitting in my dorm room, looking at my bank account and wondering if I'm doing the right thing. The money could change my family's life. Dad could pay off his debts and maybe finally get the help he needs for his gambling problem. Mom could quit her second job. Uncle Mike could get a good lawyer and maybe avoid prison time. But every financial advisor I've talked to, every therapist I've consulted, every wise person I've asked has told me the same thing: giving money to people with addictions doesn't help them. It enables them. It makes the problems worse." I know Grandpa Joe was right. I know he made this decision out of love, not favoritism. I know that handing over hundreds of thousands of dollars to my dad right now would be like giving a bottle of whiskey to an alcoholic. But knowing I'm right doesn't make it hurt any less when my own father won't speak to me. It doesn't make family gatherings any less painful when everyone treats me like a pariah. It doesn't make it easier to live with the knowledge that I have the power to solve my family's immediate financial problems, but doing so might destroy them in the long run. I've tried to compromise. I've offered to pay for gambling addiction counseling for Dad. I've offered to pay for rehab for Uncle Mike. I've offered to help with genuine emergencies. But they don't want help. They want the money, no strings attached. "You don't get to control us," Uncle Mike told me during his one phone call from jail. "That money belongs to the family, not just you." "And what would you do with it?" I asked. "That's none of your business." "It is my business. Grandpa Joe made it my business." Grandpa Joe was a bitter old man who wanted to control us from beyond the grave. Or maybe he was a wise man who understood that sometimes loving someone means not giving them what they want. "You're not my parent, Sarah. You're barely an adult yourself. I'm adult enough to see that giving you access to hundreds of thousands of dollars while you're actively dealing drugs isn't going to help anyone." I wasn't dealing drugs. I was Uncle Mike, I found the police reports. I found the photos. I know everything. He hung up on me too. The hardest part is the loneliness. I used to talk to my family every day. Now, I spend weekends alone in my dorm while my roommate goes home to her loving, functional family. I used to look forward to holidays and family gatherings. Now, I dread them. I've made new friends at college, but I can't really explain the situation without sounding either incredibly privileged, poor me, I inherited too much money, or like I'm trash-talking my family. So I just tell people that we're going through a rough patch. But I've also started seeing a therapist, and she's helped me understand some things. You didn't create this situation, Dr. Martinez told me last week. Your grandfather's addiction problems and your uncle's drug issues existed long before you inherited anything. The money didn't create these problems, it just revealed them. But I could fix their immediate problems. Could you? If you paid off your father's gambling debts, would he stop gambling? If you bailed out your uncle and paid for his lawyer, would he stop dealing drugs? I don't know. Based on what you've told me about the pattern of your grandfather bailing them out repeatedly, what do you think would happen? I knew the answer. They'd see it as validation that their problems weren't really that serious. They'd assume I'd always be there to fix things. The cycle would continue. But they're my family. Yes, they are. And sometimes loving your family means setting boundaries. Sometimes it means refusing to enable destructive behavior, even when that refusal causes pain. I've been thinking a lot about what Dr. Martinez said. I've also been thinking about what Grandpa Joe wrote in his letters. And I've been thinking about what kind of person I want to be. The truth is, I don't want to be the family ATM. I don't want to spend my life bailing people out of problems they created for themselves. I don't want to teach my future children that actions don't have consequences because Cousin Sarah will always fix things. But I also don't want to be the person who destroyed her family over money. Last week, I made a decision. I called a family meeting. We met at a neutral location, the conference room at Mr. Peterson's office. I'd asked him to be there as a mediator. I want to read you something, I said, and I read them both of Grandpa Joe's letters. The room was silent when I finished. That's not true, Dad said quietly. About the gambling. I had it under control. Dad, you've lost $20,000 in 2 months. Mom might lose the house. How do you know about that? Because Mom called me, scared out of her mind, asking for help. Uncle Mike spoke up. Those police reports are old. I'm clean now. You were arrested 2 weeks ago. That was a misunderstanding. You were caught with enough cocaine to supply half the county. I wasn't dealing. I was just. Mike, Mr. Peterson interrupted gently. I think we all know what the evidence shows. I took a deep breath. Here's what I'm proposing. The money stays where it is. I'll use it for college and my future, just like Grandpa Joe wanted. But I'm also setting up a family emergency fund. Real emergencies, medical bills, home repairs, things like that. Not gambling debts. Not legal fees for drug charges. Real emergencies. Who decides what counts as an emergency? Uncle Mike asked. I do. With input from Mr. Peterson and Dr. Martinez, my therapist. So you're going to control us. I'm going to honor Grandpa Joe's wishes while still helping our family when they truly need it. Dad shook his head. This is unbelievable. You're talking about rationing help to your own family. I'm talking about not enabling destructive behavior. You're 19 years old, Sarah. What do you know about destructive behavior? I know that Grandpa Joe spent 40 years bailing you and Uncle Mike out, and it never fixed anything. I know that giving someone money to solve problems they created through addiction just creates bigger problems. I know that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is say no. And what if I can't pay the mortgage? What if your mother and I lose our house? Then we'll work together to find a solution. I'll help with payments while you get treatment for the gambling addiction. I'll help you refinance. I'll help you find a cheaper place if necessary. But I won't just hand over money that you'll gamble away. Treatment? Dad's voice was cold. I don't need treatment. Dad, you've lost over $30,000 in the past year. You're risking Mom's security. You took money from loan sharks. If that's not addiction, what is? I can stop anytime I want. Then stop. Right now. Delete the apps. Cancel the accounts. Prove to me that you don't need treatment. I don't have to prove anything to you. No, you don't. But if you want my help, you do. Uncle Mike stood up. This is bullshit. You're holding money that should be ours hostage. I'm protecting money that Grandpa Joe earned. He earned it for his family. And I am his family. Just like you are. Just like Dad is. But I'm the family member he trusted to make good decisions with it. We'll contest the will, Uncle Mike said. Mr. Peterson spoke up. You can try, but Joe was very thorough. He had multiple medical evaluations confirming his mental competency when he wrote this will. And frankly, given the evidence of the loans and the gambling debts, a court might see this as a reasonable decision by a concerned father. Evidence that you probably helped him compile, Dad said to me. I didn't even know about the evidence until after he died. He'd been documenting everything for years. Because he was planning this. He was planning to cut us out and give everything to his perfect granddaughter. Dad, please. No. I'm done. If you want to keep that money, fine. But don't expect me to pretend we're still family. He stood up and walked out. Uncle Mike followed. That was the last time I spoke to either of them. Now, 3 weeks later, I'm wondering if I made the right choice. Mom calls me every few days, crying, begging me to reconsider. She says Dad is getting worse, gambling more, drinking more. She says Uncle Mike is probably going to prison. She says the family is destroyed and it's all my fault. Just give them some of it, she pleaded last night. Even half. Even a quarter. Something to show that you care about them. And then what happens when they lose that money too? Maybe they won't. Mom, Dad has lost every dollar Grandpa Joe ever gave him. Every single one. What makes you think this time would be different? Because maybe having that much money would change him. Maybe he'd finally feel secure enough to stop. Or maybe having access to that much money would make the gambling worse. Maybe instead of losing hundreds, he'd lose thousands. Maybe instead of owing money to local loan sharks, he'd owe money to the kind of people who don't just threaten to break legs. She didn't have an answer for that. Here's what I know, I'm 20 years old. I'm a junior in college studying business and psychology. I have a 3.8 GPA and a bright future ahead of me. I've never done drugs, never had a gambling problem, never been arrested, never borrowed money I couldn't pay back. I also know that I have $850,000 that my grandfather left to me, and that money could solve my family's immediate problems. But I also know that immediate solutions to problems caused by addiction are usually just temporary band-aids that make the underlying issues worse. I know that my grandfather was a wise man who understood his sons better than they understood themselves. I know that he trusted me with his legacy for a reason. And I know that sometimes doing the right thing means being hated by the people you love most.